420 points.
Out of how many?
Welcome to the fruity character cocktail consisting of immortals, psychopaths, and non-homicidal psychopaths.
I gotta tell you, this is so fun, I don't know if I can stop laughing.
I gotta get a hold of it's the luck.
You know, that kind of hurt. We're actually immortal!
Baccano is a triumph of heavily character-based fiction that has obvious disdain for plot limitations. In order to emancipate itself from its obligations, it resorts to anti-memeing.
How come killing us didn't make us dead?
Care to maim your cast and drench the screen in blood consistently while showing off exciting action sequences full of cool perspective shots? Make the cast list huge and litter it with immortals so that you have fodder for your ambitions. Want to detail your characters without resorting to exposition to fill in the gaps? Implement a non-linear storyline that haphazardly jumps through time with little to no context or warning. Where the ambition and fearlessness of this style is inspiring, it makes it very hard to follow the story. Jumping from one timeline to another just as you're about to deliver the punchline, the OP effectively introduces the cast while perfectly embodying what the series sets out to do. Bring a jazzy, fun vibe to what would otherwise be a grim tale. The ending provides a cleansing effect, allowing the viewer to calm down from the excitement of the previous episode before getting excited for the next episode. Just as you're about to deliver the punchline, it's distracting and harms immersion. It makes it hard to keep track of who everyone is and who they are aligned with.
Let me tell you an incomprehensible story. What is it for the actions of men to be incomprehensible? It would seem to me that if it can't be comprehended, why should one even bother trying? It is useless to even think about it, I think.
A benefit of Baccano's art style is that it's conducive to having dissimilar groups crash into each other by happenstance and then develop relationships, rather than carefully construct a network of people with commonality, a la Urasawa's Monster. It would be one thing if the style was used only to explain character motivations, but oftentimes it comes off as being done only for style. This makes it even more difficult to enjoy the subtle nuances of Baccano, because it's such a chore just to keep up with what's going on.
Right? Yeah, that's right!
Normally, I would happily take off 2 points for this sloppy and confusing garbage, but I'll give it a break since it does at least give a reason to rewatch the series in the event of missing something. Baccano also suffers from genre dysphoria. An audience that is in the mood for a comedic action anime is not likely to be in the market for a complicated production that requires critical attention. If you're going to decide to shape a psychological thriller into an action-packed comedy, then it follows that you should adjust your storytelling into something congruent with what your target audience is going to enjoy consuming. The musical score in particular shapes the content of the series rather than accentuating it. It takes the edge off of the most sinister content by delivering it with a delightfully cheery jazz score accompaniment.
Think you could fit one more into your busy schedule?
Whatever you need, pal. But I haven't washed the blood and grease and piss from my tools yet. So I get the feeling it's gonna hurt a lot.
The musical score shapes the narrative during the scarce moments of exposition by using this tension-filled track to make the content pressing and sinister. As complicated as the story is, there's a fair amount of content that could have been omitted altogether. Eve attempting to find Dallas and much of the Daily Days interactions are particularly tiresome and do little to add to the richness of the story, community, or world of Baccano. Not that Ian Sinclair will make it easy to believe.
It's freaking unbelievable!
The people that inhabit the world of Baccano are crafted in a way that makes it so they seem very human. They have positive and negative characteristics, serious character flaws, and redeeming qualities. This adds a layer of richness to the people that inhabit the world of Baccano. The character designs are very detailed but look somewhat un-anime in keeping with the time period that they take place. They utilize a dark colored palette with the exception of the bright blood that is a constant tenet. Even the clothing designs are appropriate for the time that the story is set in. Unfortunately, the animation quality during the last 3 episodes does suffer dramatically, reducing the gorgeous character designs to talking silhouettes and smooth movement to chappy garbage. Lad Russo is a blast and brightens the screen every time that he crosses it. He is completely homicidal, but comes across as being compelled by a childish glee at the prospect of his favorite activity.
Sounds like death and danger. It sounds bad. Danger, danger. What's happening in the dining car? Is there blood? Who's killing who? Where do they get shot? I have to see. Things are really starting to get exciting. Yes, 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 yes!
Jacuzzi Splot, on the other hand, is somewhat lacking in innate charisma, instead inspiring those under his command by strong, decisive action whenever it is most important, at the cost of being a wimp in non-crisis situations. He also manages to impress with his compassionate attitude towards his friends, always being willing to sacrifice himself for others. The most compelling aspect of Baccano is that they are able to make violence and happenstance funny without breaking immersion.
Everyone down on the floor right now!
Hands in the air, all of you!
Everybody freeze! And whatever you do, don't move!
The character pair that embodies this is Isaac and Miria. No matter the situation, they take a bleak backdrop and brighten it with pure enthusiasm and energy, unencumbered by logic and common sense.
All right, then just like before, the only way to steal is to steal from the Mafia!
Steal, right? That score is now 2-2. Charlie Hamstring good, not bad. Think he'll deliver the goods? If he doesn't, they'll lose their shot at the playoffs. Mitchell White's up. He throws. Third in. It's going!
They demonstrate the proper method of handling immortality, easily making lasting relationships and enriching the lives of the people that they come into contact with. The pairing is enriched by the phenomenal vocal performances of J. Michael Tatum and Caitlin Glass. Not only do they perfectly portray their characters, but they also play off of each other masterfully. The energy that they are able to hurl back and forth at each other is a true joy to watch. Isaac and Miria act as the glue that brings the non-psychopathic groups together. They bring people together that would otherwise never have interacted and manage to enrich communities. Even the lesser important cast are rich with talent in their vocal performance. They muscle their way into the limelight, showcasing why their character is awesome in any way possible, even if it means overacting to comical proportions.
They're shooting at people! People! Killing them! Murdering them! There's no place to run! We gotta get out of here!
Where there are certainly singular characters of merit, Baccano is best at showcasing dynamic relationships rather than dynamic characters. The pacing and style of Baccano scarcely allows for a singular character to establish themselves. Painstaking detail was paid to the dialects that are used for each of the characters. The dialects are very accurate and gives the story an air of celebration of the American melting pot of the time period. People from very different walks of life, cultures, backgrounds, and outlooks collide into a delightful exploration of ideas. The script is very adept at distinguishing between characters, giving different speech patterns to everyone even if they have a similar accent to the other people in their community. Not only is there diversity of culture and race, but also intellectual diversity. Mentorship is an intriguing and oft-neglected theme in anime that Baccano showcases beautifully. Many of the people in this universe are brilliant and capable people that are jaded against reality and have never had guidance or looked up to someone to emulate.
Such a sad story this is. If you're gonna cry, now's a good time.
This is true of Graham Spector, the manic and chronically excited mechanic turned small-time gangster. When Graham first comes into contact with Ladd, he is lost and struggling to find a reason to exist. After his encounter with Ladd, he becomes much more optimistic, recruits his own ragtag gang, and constantly tries to formulate philosophic notions similar to Boss Ladd.
Yeah? I really hope this doesn't turn into a boring story. Nothing worse than that. Tedium is such a crime. It takes the limited amount of time that is given to man, and rather than spending it in indolence or drowning it in pleasure, it just sits there, sucking, eating it up. I can't put up with that. Tedium is a crime! Death to tedium! Ugh. Die, die, will you die now, die! Time spent in boredom is good. I think it's what allows the climaxes of life to reach their ultimate state of perfection. There is nothing tedious in the whole world, at least not during these exciting times.
Baccano has one of the most clever and engaging methods for providing philosophical perspective. Instead of clumsily weaving it into the dialogue, it provides embodiments of conflicting ideologies and literally lets them fight it out.
The fact is, I'm never gonna be killed. So remember this. Mercy and compassion are virtues that only the strong are privileged to possess. And I am strong.
So you're one of those, too!
There is something to be said for crazy characters being developed rather than proving that they are nuts and then leaving that as their only defining characteristic. This is especially true of the Rail Tracer and Ladd, who are both very human and coherent, even sympathetic in spite of being batshit insane. Character reactions define what is normal in this world rather than telling us whether something is out of place or impressive.
Now you die! What was that? Did that really happen?
Baccano has an underlying dramatic irony that usually decides the fate of its villains. Seekers of immortality die in their quest, and homicidal psychopaths looking to prey on the weak are cold like sheep. Baccano attempts to tie up its loose ends and honestly succeeds spectacularly. This is a very welcome change from the norm. 1337 points.
Out of how many?
Baccano is an exquisite series with some obvious flaws. It earns itself an 8 out of 10. Too bad there isn't more.
No! No, no, no! You can't make me accept this! But, while I can't accept it, it is the truth, which is something that I can't tolerate.